America has a shameful role to play in this. Israel could not get away with these disgraceful acts of international piracy and brigandage if it wasn't for the protecting shadow of the United States of America. And I condemn President Obama for his utter inaction. At the instructions of the Americans, we're prepared to boycott, to go in after the Russian banks, to do this, that, and the other. And what do we do about Israel? We don't even mark a protest note with our vote in the Human Rights Commission of the United Nations. I think that's shameful, absolutely shameful. They've been directed there by Israel. The coordinates were given 17 times. How could anybody claim that they didn't know what they were doing? Israel's policy is shoot first and weep afterwards. Oh, did we hit children? What a terrible tragedy. Nobody believes you anymore. No point in having any kind of an alleged truce that only has one side in it. It was laughable, the rubbish produced by the Israelis, the Americans and the Egyptians. They didn't consult Hamas. I mean, that is just utter, absolute madness. And Tony Blair was involved in it. My God, that man is shameless, utterly shameless. He should keep his face out of the Middle East after what he and George Bush did.
To the fact that Israel has committed war crimes year after year after year. And last year in Gaza, over 2,000 people were killed. Women and children were deliberately targeted by the Israeli government. And Netanyahu gave those orders.
I'm 76 and this has been going on since I was a small girl, since I was 8.
Children, the disproportionate amount of women and children killed in this situation is a violation of all the spiritual beauty that Judaism stands for. The respect for life, the fact that if you save one life, you save the universe. All this blown out of the window. And blown out of the window, as I saw, by the arrival of 1,200,000 extremely right-wing former citizens of the Soviet Union. I think it's time people told the truth about what people are saying in Israel. For example, Interior Minister Eddie Yishan in 2012 was saying they're going to send the Gaza back to the Middle Ages. Defense Minister Matan Vilnai said they were going to visit the Holocaust on the Palestinians. That's Nazi talk. He's describing himself as a Nazi. And I believe there should be an expulsion of the Israeli ambassador. He has his fingers in his ears all the time, and he just repeats slogans. I believe that the United Nations should accept full and permanent responsibility for the welfare of the people of Gaza. And if that means an international force going in, that's fine. The ESB, to rebuild the only power station in Gaza. I mean, cutting off the electricity to people who are squeezed into this appalling punishment camp. And then cutting back on the food imports and saying, and this is where I say it's Nazi, saying they're placing the people of Palestine on a diet. What a contempt that shows for human beings.
It's unbelievable that Netanyahu can still come to this country even though 100,000 people have signed a petition for his arrest.
My main question is about Netanyahu. Are you aware of the public statements of Benjamin Netanyahu's government, himself and several leading ministers, where they have stated in the most brutal and cold-blooded terms their belief that it is legitimate to kill Palestinians, including innocent women and children? Let me just give you a quick flavour of some of the statements that have been made. This is the Defence Minister, Moshe Yaalon, talking just a couple of weeks ago. Israel is going to hurt Lebanese civilians, to include kids of the family. We went through a very long discussion. We did it then, we did it in the Gaza Strip, we are going to do it in any round of hostilities in the future. That's the Defence Minister. This is the Military Chief of Staff, Benny Gantz. The next round of violence will be worse and see this suffering increase. He headed up the military assaults on Gaza, the last two. This is the Minister for Education in the Netanyahu government. There will never be a peace plan with the Palestinians. I will do everything in my power to make sure they never get a state. He also said, if you catch terrorists, you simply have to kill them. I've killed a lot of Arabs in my life, and there's no problem with that. This is the Minister for Justice. Palestinians are all enemy combatants. This also includes the mothers of the martyrs. They should follow their sons. Nothing would be more just. They should go, as should the physical homes in which they raised the snakes. Otherwise, more little snakes will be raised there. That's the Israeli Minister for Justice in the last few months. The Israeli Deputy Minister for Defence. Palestinians are beasts. They are not human. The Minister for Foreign Affairs, CP Hotley, this is the last one. My position is that between the sea and the Jordan River, there needs to be one state only, the State of Israel. There is no place for any agreement of any kind that discusses the concession of Israeli sovereignty over lands conquered in 1967. Now, these are the official statements of several ministers of the current government of Israel. In one case, actually advocating genocide of all Palestinians, including children, and calling them snakes. That is the language and thinking of terrorists. For the heads of government of a state that we carry on normal relations with and who you met in Paris, to advocate those sort of views when we know they have also led on to the deaths of thousands of Palestinians, innocent men, women and children.
Ambassador, I will say frankly, I'm one of the people who thinks you should be expelled from this country. I think, along with Desmond Tutu, that the time for treating you as a normal state is over, because you're not behaving as a normal state. I'm opposed to racism, that I oppose what your state is doing and what it stands for. You have tried to cover over what you have done, the killings of innocent people in Gaza on 3 separate occasions over recent years, the seizure of Palestinian land. It was apartheid, it was racism, it was endemic, it was rotten. Absolutely, I was shocked within weeks of living there to see how you treated Palestinian people. Let them not be dictated to by a government for whom they do not vote as to what can go in and out of their territories, whether they will have power, whether they will have clean water, whether they will have medicine. What makes you think you're allowed to have nuclear weapons and the 4th biggest army in the world and visit destruction on the people of Gaza, but they have no right to defend themselves? How do you justify those double standards? And Bishop Tutu, Nelson Mandela, and I would certainly describe your state as an apartheid state, with different laws for people depending on their race or religion.
I've heard so many cliches in such a short time for a long, long time. You know damn well that Israel is not a racist country. Everyone has the same rights. Every person. Rubbish. Israel is a democracy that respects the rights of everyone. I know you can say that you don't believe me, but
I saw it for myself.
You've been
very sad. I mean, I'm not anti-Israeli, I'm not anti-Semitic. I supported the State of Israel. But in the 40 years I've known the State of Israel and sometimes had a home there, I've seen it completely change. It changed from a left-wing, socially directed country to an extreme right-wing regime that is behaving in the most criminal fashion and defying the world and unscrupulously using the Holocaust to justify what they're doing. And it's time that rag was torn away from them. And with regard to Hamas, Israel created Hamas in order to split Fatah. So they're responsible. And I had that confirmed at the highest level in the foreign ministry in Jerusalem some years ago. And I have to say it is astonishing to me that the West prates about democracy, but what self-respecting or sane people would allow their enemies to choose their government for them?